Hi, this is Gail Nettles with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and today we are going to talk about bead embroidery backing. Let's get started. Well, the first thing to look at is you have a piece of bead embroidery. You see the front of it, and you see that there's a backing on it. But how do you get the beads to stay on the backing? It's very simple. You use what's called foundation and embroidery backing. Here's an example of something that I use quite a bit of. It's called lacy stiff stuff. It comes in sheets of about 8.5 by 11, and I think there's also like a 5 by 9 set of sheets. This is very, very easy to work with. You can see I've already got something started here, and you can see it goes ahead and accepts the needle very, very easily. I'm really not using any force to get this needle through. And what we do is we use the beads to embroider on this. Since this is actually fairly stiff, as you can tell, but it's still bendable, it allows you to put the beads where you need them. And basically what we're doing is we're sewing onto the back of this. So that's the beading foundation that I think most of us use. Now I did find something really recently called Nicole's bead backing. And the reason why I think this is really kind of neat is because it comes in colors. Now it's very similar to lacy stiff stuff, but it's a little stiffer. It's still bendable, but I think it's a little bit stiffer, a little bit thicker. But the advantage is you don't have to dye it. The one thing about lacy stiff stuff is that if you are having like a lot of dark beads, the white background will show through quite a bit. Now you can use a permanent marker and of course color it in. That'll work fine, but sometimes you really don't want to go through all that hassle, and that's where this stuff comes in handy. Now that's for the actual backing that you're going to use for your bead embroidery, but what about the back of the project? If you take a look at this, you can see that as I've been doing the bead embroidery, it's getting kind of, I've got threads going all over the place, and it just doesn't look very nice if you just had that, with nothing else over it for your piece of jewelry. So you can see that on my pieces, what I do is I back it with another material. Now what I use for most of these is Ultra Suede. And Ultra Suede is, yes, that famous fabric that doesn't fray, it doesn't stretch, and it comes in all kinds of colors. Like right here I've got a piece of brown, but they come in black and pink and leopard skin and you name it, that's the kind of colors. As a matter of fact, this backing that you see right here, that's also Ultra Suede. I just got a really big piece of it. So this is what I use when I'm going to be backing it. Now what I do is, once I've got this all cut out or all finished and then I've cut it out, I will go ahead and apply the backing to it, cut the backing to the size of my bead embroidery, and then I'll go ahead and sew it on like this. So you can see that I've sewn it on using beads. So in other words, we've got the lacy stiff stuff, and then we've got this on top of it, and we sew it together with beads. So now people have asked, well, can I use the Ultra Suede instead of like the bead foundation? Sure you can, not a problem. The only thing that I don't like about using Ultra Suede for my bead backing is that it's, I don't want to say limp, but it's not as stiff as the lacy stiff stuff. And my beadwork tends to be so large that it kind of flops around if I use this as my foundational backing. So I tend to use the lacy stiff stuff, or as I've just found it, the Nicole's bead backing. Now bead embroidery is a lot of fun. You can do things like make bracelets, and I do, by the way, have a tutorial on these bracelets. You can make things like this. This could be a pendant or maybe a pin. This would be a great component to use in, for example, maybe a bracelet or a necklace, or it can be a pendant all by itself. This is, of course, meant to be a pendant. It's nice and bold, don't you think? Here's another more freeform pendant that I've created. And these are just a few ideas of things that you can do with bead embroidery. So as to sum up, what you need is you need a piece of backing. This is the foundation backing. You can either use lacy stiff stuff or you can use the new Nicole's bead backing. You'll need a piece of ultra suede for the very back side of your piece. And then all you'll need in addition to that are some beads, needle, thread, and a little bit of imagination. There you go. That's what you need as a Bead Foundation 101 for bead embroidery. This is Gail Nettles with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and have yourself a great day. Bye.